a closer look at the destruction left behind by the LA wildfires. This, I'm telling you, it's scary, bro.
We begin now in Southern California, where the devastation is just incomprehensible. There are now 6 wildfires burning throughout Southern California. Nearly 2,000 homes, businesses, and other structures have been destroyed in the Eaton and Palisades fires, and that number is expected to rise. So far, the wind-driven flames have killed 5 people and forced more than
Oh my
100,000 people
goodness.
to evacuate.
But something this big and this fast that, kind of just wiped out the whole town was something that I personally, and I think a lot of people from around here never saw coming. I just hope, the Palisades can come together and, figure out how we can all pitch in and try and build this, town back up to the great place that it was.
Now, fire crews say that the winds could continue through Friday, stretching from Santa Barbara to San Diego. The National Weather Service says the wind gusts in the area will be a little bit lower, between 35 and 55 miles an hour today. Now, the Palisades fire alone has scorched more than 17,000 acres. We are giving you a live look right now from the area, and you can just see billowing
goodness.
smoke that stretches for miles.
It's done. It was an alarm.
Miles throughout the area. Officials are now calling this one of the most destructive, if not the most destructive wildfire in the history of Los Angeles. Right now, 2 more Arizona task forces are heading out to help in California. In all, 78 people, 17 engines, and 4 tenders from Arizona are helping to fight those massive wildfires that you can just see billowing out of the canyons there. We have live team coverage headed your way. Meteorologist Crystal Long is standing by with a look at what fire crews will be facing on the front lines today. But first, let's go out to Southern California to Troy Hayden, who is live in Pacific Palisades, one of the worst hit areas with the latest. And Troy, behind you there, it's just unbelievable, the destruction.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, wait until I show you more of it, Tram. The good news is at this point, the winds have died down. They are calm this morning. That is, though, expected to change as the day goes on. All right, take a look at this. So this is a small neighborhood in Pacific Palisades. The Pacific Ocean is maybe 200 yards away. But as far as you look up there, every home is reduced to rubble. It's like this little place was wiped off the map, erased. And look, if you look more closely, you've got aluminum ladders here. You've got the back of a barbecue grill that survived. This little dolly here, this little dolly somehow survived, but all the rubber is burned off the wheels.
Oh my
And to show you how dynamic this
goodness.
fire is, all of this is cool to the touch. This burned like 2 days ago. Within the last half hour, we looked up, and a big, beautiful 2-story home. Can you imagine a home on the top of that bluff,
Bro.
looking over the Pacific Ocean, just caught fire? And it has been burning without anybody trying to put it out for about the last half an hour, and it will burn to the ground.
Dude.
Now, we got here earlier this morning, took a walk around Pacific Palisades. Here's what we saw. When people say it looks like a bomb went off in Pacific Palisades, you can see what they're talking about here. I have covered a number of urban wildfires over the course of my career, and I don't know if I've ever seen devastation this complete. You can see everything that's not stone or metal has basically disintegrated, been incinerated by the heat of this fire. We walked around and got a look at a bit of the neighborhood earlier today. One thing we do see just outside of Pacific Palisades is this: a long line of cars, worried residents wanting to check on their homes, to get back into the Palisades to see if their homes are still standing, get past this area here. Unfortunately, for most of them, depending on where they live, the news is not going to be good.
The Ralphs is gone, the Gelsons is gone, the library's gone. Um, you know, 2/3 of the town is gone, and every other home has been destroyed.
And maybe the toughest thing you see here, residents who have been able to come back to their homes and they're sifting through them trying to find anything they can, anything of value that may have survived these fires. One of the big dangers here in this devastated Palisades neighborhood, power lines. You can see this one is just dangling. And it's not just the lines themselves, it's the power poles. We're going to stay back a bit, but if you look closely at the bottom, you can see it's charged. They think possibly because it's so charred down there and burned, it has been weakened, and these poles could topple over.
Oh
One of
my
the things we heard
goodness,
a lot
dude.
was there was a lack of water pressure up in this area when the fire was raging. And you can see this looks to be a water softener that's still leaking water. And you have to imagine dozens, maybe hundreds of leaks like this all throughout this neighborhood contributing to that low water pressure. And you can really see the heat of the fire that came through here. Believe it or not, this is a Tesla, or was a Tesla. Anything that's not metal has just been vaporized. Even the rubber on the tires completely gone. All the cloth on the seats. So this fire moved here with ferocity. So again, you see a lot of this in Pacific Palisades. Even though most residents are not allowed back in, people just kind of walking, kind of dazed looking through their homes, trying to find anything they can that may have survived the fire. Again, the good news at this point is we look right across here at a charred American flag that somehow was not burned. It is blackened, but it is still there, Tram. And it's barely flapping in the wind right now, but everybody's on the edge of their seat. The images you had at the top of the show, the top of the newscast, they're burning up here to the north. And so we're going to head in that direction right after this newscast and try to see the firefight up close. But I'm telling you, Tram, I've been to a lot of big fires. San Diego County wildfires. I was in Oakland Hills back in 1991. I've never seen so many homes and neighborhoods basically just flattened.
Yeah, you can see why this looks like it could be the most destructive in U.S. history. You know, Troy, I know you've been doing this for a very long time. You left early this morning to head into the area, into Southern California. When you were flying in, what was that like to see from just an aerial point of view? I mean, I'm sure it looked like a war zone just hit the entire area for miles.
Right. Yeah. I mean, as you're flying in and dropping into LA, coming in from the desert, right, coming in from the east, you could see the Palisades fire, first of all, much larger than the rest, and that smoke heading out towards the ocean, towards the west. Those are those Santa Ana winds we told you about over and over. That's what makes them so dangerous. And then right next to the Burbank Airport is the other big fire where they believe 5 people were killed. You know, unfortunately, and the Phoenix teams coming in here are going to be doing some of this search and rescue, trying to find victims who may still be trapped in these homes. They think that death toll is going to rise. So, again, if you look over here, Tram, you can see this is the Pacific Ocean right here. How often do you hear about fires in LA getting this close to the Pacific Ocean? They think that the fire came screaming down this hill right here behind us, and you can see the remains of a home up there, but came down the hill and then took this entire neighborhood out. But you know, I mean, it's block after block after block. It's hard to even put into words, I'll be honest with you here. And the stunned people walking around kind of wondering what they do next.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, think about Pacific Palisades. You know this. Pacific Palisades is almost like the Paradise Valley of LA. Big, beautiful homes, you know, and they're just gone.
Yeah, it's truly unbelievable. I mean, you're right. During my college years at UCLA, I would drive through that area, and it is one of the most ritziest places throughout Southern California. And to see something like this, I mean, you hear so many stories of heartbreak. I mean, people who have raised their kids, have lived 60 years in their homes, all to be gone. A lot of them, it still hasn't even hit them yet, that they've lost everything, the memories, the pictures, everything that's gone. And I'm sure you've talked to a lot of people, and you're hearing the same, you know, the news that they are just stunned.
Well, we're trying to be respectful as well. I mean, the couple that I showed you in Palisades earlier in our taped piece, they didn't want to go on camera, but the husband told us a story, said they're looking for his box of mementos that he's had since a child, his one box that he didn't get to take out in time. They had to get out before the evacuation even started. The wife was on a hike and saw the flames reaching their home, called her husband and said, get out, and they got out. And the only thing he found in his box of mementos was a Coke bottle that he saved as a kid, and it was melted down into almost like a ball. That's all that was left. And he goes, well, at least I have this. You know, they're just stunned. Think about it. Think about if, you're a big memory person. Think about if all that stuff was just suddenly gone.
I know, and it happened so fast, and people just did not have time to react fast enough. All right, Troy, just so many stories of hurt and pain. Complete devastation in areas surrounding Los Angeles. 180,000 people under evacuation orders in the LA area. The destruction looking like a war zone as the massive wildfire ripped through miles of homes, fueled by the unrelenting Santa Ana winds and drought conditions. Today, firefighters are hoping to get the upper hand. Maribel Gonzalez is in Pacific Palisades with the latest.
Something this big and this fast that, kind of just wiped out the whole town was something that I personally, and I think a lot of people from around here never saw coming.
Unrelenting wildfires are continuing to ravage parts of Los Angeles County Thursday, causing tens of thousands of residents to flee and more ready to go at a moment's notice.
And I saw a big ball of orange with the smoke, so it looked like it was here towards the top of the hill. And I went back to the house and got some things.
The Palisades fire has destroyed more than 1,000 structures, making it the most destructive in LA County history.
Everything is just gone, and I just want to wake up from this bad dream.
And the Eaton fire has quickly reduced much of the Altadena area to ash and rubble.
This is our retirement. This is our nest egg. This is where we moved in when we got married.
The nearby city of Pasadena told residents that the water there may be unsafe to drink because of debris from the Eaton fire, and the health concerns are mounting. The air quality across Southern California has been deemed a hazardous 6 out of 6 because of all the smoke and ash swirling around.
We couldn't breathe anymore. And we had all the filters going in the house. We had HEPA filters, and nothing seemed to work.
Well, as mentioned, the winds have died down compared to yesterday, hopefully allowing those firefighters to get to those hard-to-reach areas. Right now, we want to go back out live to Troy Hayden, who's in Pacific Palisades, with more on what he's seeing. And Troy, again, it's just surreal to see everything that's happening behind you, and you can even still see some of the smoke.
Yeah, I mean, some of these fires are still smoldering for sure. I will say, as opposed to that last piece you were talking about, the air quality has gotten a lot better out here today, at least right now. At least it seems to be a little bit more of an onshore breeze, which is expected to change. But again, we want to be respectful of people's belongings. But when you look at things like this motorcycle, you understand what heat does to people's possessions. You can see right here, this frame, it's just kind of bent over and melted as well. It's metal. I'm walking on top of glass that is shattered. And something I want to show you, Tram, you see these, how long have these palm trees been here? They've got to be 70 feet tall, I would think, maybe even more. Look, they are black all the way up to their fronds. So you would imagine at some point those flames were getting darn near close that high, or at least that hot up into that area. All right, let's talk about those Santa Ana winds, right? I mentioned them a little bit in our last hit we did for you guys. Normally, the wind comes off the Pacific Ocean. Santa Ana, though, they switch around. What happened here was, if you look at that hillside behind me, the wind pushed the fire down into this neighborhood. It burned this whole neighborhood. And you know this, Tram, growing up here, and everybody who visits Los Angeles, this is the PCH. This is the one. This is the famous road you take right along the shore of the ocean. The fire burned across the PCH. And look at that, Tram. That's some sort of a outbuilding, probably for the county or something, lifeguard type thing. It's burned right on top of the sand, which you just don't see very often. So again, it shows you how strong those winds were to push it across here to where we are. So one more thing, again, being respectful of people's things. Do you recognize what these are, Tram?
No, it's kind of hard to see.
They're the little edges of a bench. You know those little wooden benches with the wood in the bottom? Yeah, so the two ends of the bench, and the wood is just gone, like nowhere near. It's still smoldering here. You talked about smoldering. That burned 2 days ago, and something's still burning down there. So again, we've only just really arrived. We got into this area maybe, 2 hours ago. What we're going to do is we're going to head north, and I think that's where the most active fire is right now. Look at some of the firefighting efforts and see what's going on there. But I have to tell you, my mom and dad lived in Palisades for a short time. When I was a kid, I was already out of the house. I was in college. My mom even said, can you go and see where our house was? We're by Gelson's. That little downtown area, which is such a beautiful little downtown, Tram, it's gone. I've never seen a Chase Bank burned to the ground. There's a Chase Bank there burned to the ground. We're going to go back in and we'll get some more video of that. We were coming out here to make sure we could get in here. But so we have much more coming your way on 4, 5, and 6 tonight, and the 10 o'clock news. So a lot more reporting from here in Southern California.
Yeah, I mean, so many things that you're talking about just trigger so many chills, so many emotions. I mean, when you see PCH just right there, and the fact that that shows you how powerful and fast that wildfire was, the fact that it jumped a natural barrier, which would kind of stop the flames, it jumped and then burned the building on the other side of the road, just shows how ferocious that fire is. Troy, I'm wondering, you know, where you're at. Earlier in the last half hour, you talked about a line of cars trying to get back to their homes, you know, people trying to get back to their homes, trying to see what was left. It looks pretty deserted. Are they not allowing people back in just yet?
Yeah, I'm not exactly clear on how the people who were in there got in there, or maybe they stayed inside that zone and just came back to where their houses were, but they're not letting any residents back inside. One woman wanted to leave, and they made her park her car on the other side of the barrier and then walk across. They are allowing people to walk back and forth, but they're not allowing any cars to go in. So if your car's not in there, at least in that part of the neighborhood we were in, the most devastated one, you know, you hate to even report this, but they've arrested 20 looters.
Yeah.
People going in, and of course not to areas like this. There's nothing left to loot. There's nothing here. But going into some of the areas where the homes are still standing. So, and the DA was very emphatic about it today. He said, look, if you come into these neighborhoods, if you try to take advantage of people, we will find you and we will prosecute you. So they're not letting people in back just yet.
Yeah, rightfully so. And in fact, I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, it's a sad fact to report after so much devastation and people crying and losing their homes and everything. But on top of that, the ugly side is you've got looters. We're going to be talking about that later on at 4 o'clock. But we know that, you know, especially like the Sunset Fire, for instance, the LAPD, they detained one person suspected of looting. And sadly, you know, it's going to happen. It's a sad fact after tragedies like this that people will take advantage of people who are vulnerable and have lost so much already.
And the DA even went further and said, if you're a person who wants to scam somebody out of rebuilding, if you want to be an internet scam involved in this, we will find you. So one more thing, you can see this, I think it's a member of the media down there kind of looking over that fence behind us and taking pictures. That is the swimming pool for this whole neighborhood, and it's just black. And they talk about water quality. They're having many people boil their water because there's so much ash that fell into some of these reservoirs. It's not safe to drink without boiling your water. So again, even though this is the area right here that's impacted the hardest, people all over LA County are being impacted. And one more thing, Tram, you know, they've evacuated over 180,000 people because of these fires. You know how many people live in Tempe? 189. So it's like evacuating the city of Tempe. That's how many people we're talking about.
That is so wild. But we do know that there are a lot of resources out there that are trying to help in situations like this. You know, the LA Unified School District, they're having grab-and-go meals. You got the YMCA offering free childcare for essential workers. LA restaurants giving out, you know, free food. So slowly but surely, you know, even though it's still going on, but the community is trying to get together. All right, Troy, I'm going to let you go. I know you have a lot more to cover for us later today at 4, 5, and 6. We're going to see you then, but please, please stay safe.